Then there becomes the point where the dreaming becomes like, it's not this fleeting thought. It becomes almost like a daily ritual, thinking about this thing, like wanting it, like it keeps coming up. It's not this flash of light that crosses your eyes. It becomes a lot of flashes, and it becomes, you really start to marinate. And all of a sudden, there has to become a part where the dreaming becomes doing.
Hello, hello, Miss Evan, and
Right?
welcome to the podcast. I'm so happy you're here.
It's like a total dream. Can you
It's
imagine
a
all these
dream.
years ago and then we're here?
No, I just had a real flashback as we were talking a few minutes ago of just when we were talking about your onion breath and my cheese fingers and just how that was just like every day, just weird conversations that we
Yeah,
would
all
have
day long.
together.
And then you just analyze that for 45 minutes for no
instead of
reason.
instead of doing work and then go and take a break and talk about it more.
Exactly.
Um, okay, we're gonna talk a little bit about
Mhm.
our origin story because I mean, it's such a big part of my
Well, it's
life.
your original manifestation story,
Oh
right?
my God, it is.
Yeah.
And just to think about that moment in time and how we both had sort of like this time together and then just our paths went like this, but in a way we've just been connected through it all and it's just
Yeah.
been amazing. But before we get into anything, I always start with gratitude. So Evan Barcenas, three things that you are grateful for in this moment in time.
In this moment in time, Julia, I am grateful for you. I have told you this, but I get these moments of just overwhelming pride because your spirit is so contagious, and the fact that you have decided to use that to touch other people's lives is like something that totally inspires me, and I'm so proud to be in your like rainbow hug. And
Oh, I love
so I'm
you.
grateful for you. I'm grateful to be home,
Mm.
um, and in a house that I've built with my family that I'm proud of. And I'm really grateful to have just had the experience that I did. And so they're a little bit of colliding worlds, and we'll talk about that later on. But I actually had my therapy session today, kind of trying to deal with the transition in between these two worlds. But to just say that I'm so grateful for them both
Yeah.
um, is the truth.
And Evan, I feel like that's just such a perfect segue into how I want to start. Because I was like, how are we going to, what are we going to talk about to make it not 27 hours and like try to
I
condense
mean,
this
not
time
cheese
again?
fingers.
And yeah, because like when we catch up, it tends to be that we're like all of a sudden over here and then over there. And then it's
Yeah,
like 10 hours later. And I mean, it's always so beautiful, but we haven't caught up for a while. And I'm
yeah.
actually excited to hear about just your last few weeks and everything that's going on in your life. But just for the purpose of this conversation, can you start by just talking about who you are, Evan, right now?
Yeah.
And these different roles that you play and what you're doing in your life right now. What this moment of in time is to you.
Well, so I think that um who I am, Evan, right now is a different story every 20 minutes.
Mhm.
But I have learned to be okay with that versus sort of judgmental about that. Evan, right now, I just dropped off cookies for my daughter's birthday at her school. I'm a mom. I have two kids, but they're not young kids anymore. So I'm a mom of kids that are kind of reaching that in between zone, preteen, still holding on to a little bit of childhood, but navigating some really important moments, which is a whole different meaning of a mom for me.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
and so I'm that. I am a very proud daughter to my parents and a sibling and a friend, and and a wife. And I'm also a touring musician that has to leave that world behind for long chunks of time to go pursue what my original dream was, much later in life and very unexpectedly. And so I'm all those things and which version. And you know what? Like sometimes I'm a golfer.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'm a competitive chess player. And, and sometimes, like, I don't know, I'm a complete weirdo loner in my weird house pink robe and don't want to talk to anyone for 3 days. And that's who I am. So I'm
Yeah.
I'm being more comfortable and more gracious with myself to allow all of the versions of myself to exist because they all do.
Yeah. And do you think they all always have? Let's talk a little bit about what is the best way to talk about your path and what got you here? What feels right to you right now? Like should we talk about like the milestones, or like when you think about what got you to this moment right now and to being a touring musician and a country clubber. um
Oh my god.
no, I guess you're not a country clubber,
No, I no, I mean,
but you are kind of.
I am.
Yeah.
So, but I'm not. But okay, so I think really what the truth, like the consistent part of this journey
Yeah.
um is loving something so much that it felt um like I had a gift.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a gift like, oh, I'm so talented. It was a gift of loving to do something so much. And that for me was always music.
Mhm.
And I found that out at a really young age about myself. I remember the like incredibly self-soothing elements of music that I remember feeling like I don't know, like that the sound and the making of the music and somebody singing like was the closest, most purest way of feeling something. And that when I made those sounds myself, like I was tapping into something. And then the fact that like just the joy that I've always had from making music was so pure and always how I thought of myself. And and so we'll talk about the life that got in the way
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
of that, a pure essence, but also the life that didn't get in the way of that pure essence um because it's always called to me, and whether I chose to listen to it or ignore it based out of self-doubt or fear or narratives that other people were telling me about it, um in the end I'm sort of back where I started. And
Oh,
there's this there's this feeling of the true joy and purpose in doing what I'm doing. Now, it also comes with all of those things all the time. It's not this happy-go-lucky headspace
yeah.
to chase down a dream. It's so vulnerable. It's so
Oh,
hard. You have
yeah.
to make hard decisions and put yourself out there on the line. But I think what we should talk about is what it's like to be living inside of your truth and what it feels like to be living outside of that,
Yeah.
and then how to kind of encourage yourself to go back
Yeah.
to it.
Yeah. I love that. And before we do, I don't think we've ever really talked about this, Evan, and we definitely, I think from when we met. So we met in 2009.
7, 9, 9. Ooh,
9. I
ooh.
started, so this is just a little bit of the backstory. Actually, I'm going to let you share the backstory. Like the day that, do you remember the day that we met?
Yeah, when you were, because were we Nooglers together, or
Yeah.
were
Or
and we
you were,
were wearing
yeah, no, you started like a day
a
before me.
day before you.
I think
And
so.
then we meet in Crittenden?
Yeah,
Like,
you picked
I
me
picked
up.
you up from your Noogler training. I picked you up.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you were like, oh my gosh. So you had this, like, crazy combination of being, like, so nerdily happy and, like, just radiant and, like, and then this, like, mischief also behind you, which I'm like, "Oh my god, that's my soulmate."
Yeah.
And I remember just, like, picking you up and you asked so many questions.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
you didn't assume, like, anything,
Well,
and
I didn't
you
know anything. That's the problem too.
but
Yeah.
but let's just even talk about that. Like,
Mhm.
even in the moment, like, when people are insecure, they often try and pretend that they know everything or, like, prove that they belong
That's true.
somewhere and
Yeah.
not admit, like, I have no idea."
Tell
Like,
me everything you
tell
know.
me everything.
Yeah.
Tell me everything about you, you
Yeah.
know? And when you're greeted with the earnestness of, like, wanting to know or, like, the courage to say, like, "I don't really know what's going on. Can you help me?" Like, the minute that that happens, you're like, "Oh my god, all in. Yes.
Yeah.
Like, let's
Yeah.
do this," you
Yeah.
know?
Well,
Um,
from my perspective, when you picked me up, I'm like, wait, she's just this like gorgeous, like just ray of light and beauty and talk about rainbows. Like I just remember seeing you in this like gold dust just all around you. And you were like, yeah, you had just started and I'm like, this is my teammate. Like I cannot because you're also the same age as my sister who we later found out actually
knew
that
each other.
day. Yeah, you like somehow we were like, oh my God, you knew my sister's name. We went to different high schools, but we both grew up in Northern California. And so you were just like the cool older sister that I never had. Well, no offense to my sister. I love her. But like, but it
Me
was
too.
different because we became so close so fast. And then we started discovering like even though we're different in so many ways, like we're also similar in so many ways. We sort of think the same and then what like we found out like months in that we were invited to the same wedding and that your dad and my uncle were best friends in
Talk
college.
about the universe putting 2 people
I
together.
know. So now that I've been so into like this, and this is actually what the question that I want to ask you. I've done so many readings of lately with like mediums, and my spirit guide comes through so much. I still haven't connected on my own, but I don't believe at all in accidents anymore. And there was 1,000,000% a reason that we came together when we did. And just like the role that you played in my life in this really pivotal, like this was a milestone year for me, moving, like starting my job at Google. And because it was like, that's when I kind of realized the power that I had to create my life. Before that, life was just kind of happening.
Happening to you, but it's
Yeah.
also the age too, right?
It's
Where,
the
like, you're
age too, but it was also
yeah.
like the time of just I was so excited to be there and to start my life. The first time I'd ever lived alone. I had my own place in San Francisco. It's the year that I met Alex.
Alex.
It was like
Yeah.
it was you. We had this like it was just the start of the life that I'm living now.
Adulthood. Yeah.
Adulthood. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
But
the reason
also to know that adulthood, um, was still full of, like, so much fun.
yeah.
Like, when I think of you, Julia, I think of, like, every day there not being enough time in the day to have with you.
I know.
Like,
I was so wait, so I'd pick you up and
because we
we'd
also had a free shuttle, but we
yeah, I know.
didn't wanna use it because we
Because
had
we
so much to talk
because
about
we had so much to talk about at 7 in the morning
every
when we would
morning.
leave every morning and then drive the hour and a half, chit-chatting away the whole time, then getting to Google, which is in Mountain View. We lived in San Francisco, chit-chatting all day long, taking breaks. Hey, ready to go for a break? Ready to go for a break? Having lunch together, having breaks together, then being like, what time are we gonna leave together, then go hang out
Hang out after
all all afternoon in the evening basically until our head went down on the pillow and then doing it. And then actually there were some times where I'd go back to my apartment
And
after
call
hanging
me.
out with you and then call you. It's like,
I was married to so Camilo at the
yeah,
time.
you were married.
I was married. I mean, I'm still married to
Yeah,
Camilo,
yeah.
but he would just look at me and be like, "Ev, like, you
What's
guys,
going on?
what's happening here?" I'm like, "I don't know. I really think I found like my other soulmate."
I
And
know.
then he's like, "I'm down with that because
Yeah,
she's
I
the
know.
most fun person
I
ever."
know. I think if Camilo and I didn't like get so close also, he would have
Yeah.
thought that it got weird. But
Yeah.
then it became the three of us for a while. And I love so Camilo brought in the whole like we would talk universe, like we would
Yeah.
talk like expansion and just talk about like curiosity and
Yeah.
big questions. And like that's him. Like you,
Well, you guys, it's no, like, it's,
yeah,
like these male female counterparts, like you
yeah,
guys share like all of that too.
yeah.
So that was like the best time ever
Oh
for
my
me.
God.
I'm
And
like,
then
I'm fulfilled.
yeah, and your music, like I think the day two of meeting you, we were in your car. I don't know why are we in your car? Probably driving to lunch or something. And you started playing your album, and I was like, "Wait, this is you?" And it was from a couple, and it was an angel. Like I just remember thinking, "Oh my God, she is." like out of this world talented. This is crazy. And you were so nonchalant about it. You're like, oh, I just, recorded that in the studio. You just have a little random album. And I'm like, wait, what? Like this isn't just this is like incredible. And then those, few years that we were really close, like I got to go and hang out with you and you'd grab the guitar and just play music and it was like this angel would come out and it was just like so incredible to see you and then to see you on stage and you do like little gigs here and there but it was so clear Evan from the beginning like oh this woman has a purpose and this is where I want to bring in the spiritual question because I have spoken to so many mediums lately and connect with my guides but in my mind, like this is a gift your soul came to share with the world. And you felt that as a child and you're feeling it now. And had you gone and stayed at Google and stayed on that straight and narrow or whatever, like you would have kept being pulled, kept being pulled, kept being pulled until probably your spirit guide would have like pushed you and
Throw you
something
and
drastic would have happened. But I want to hear your
Mm.
thoughts on all of this.
So my thoughts
The spiritual
on
side of like purpose and like where this came from, this love of
um
music.
well, so like a lot of musicians, actually started my whole journey of music in church.
Mhm.
And it's it's a place where people come to worship, and throughout time, whatever faith you're in, singing and music unlocks sort of this path to God.
Mm.
This it's always been with religious ceremony. um,
Wow.
so if you really think about music in general and how people worship whatever path they're on, there's always music. And then from the musician side of things, a lot of musicians get their start and they make their vocation and sort of
Mhm.
religious church because it's a place where music is always employable. So
Mhm.
if you trace a lot of musicians, a lot of them actually get their start
Yeah, that's
there.
true. I've never really thought about that.
And the other thing about it is that um like at least for me, music then always had that origin story of being tied to the connection to the divine, right?
Wow.
There's always for me, I'm not particularly like, I think there are many paths to God, and the path that I follow isn't the only one, but
Yeah.
it's the path that I follow. And
Yeah.
I I when I am in a room and people are collectively singing, I without fail cry.
Wow.
It is the fastest way to my heart. because I see this moment in time where people are reaching, and they've stopped and they're reaching for something higher. And not only that, like they're doing it together. And I don't think there's very many instances where people do that. And music to me is that. And so there's this spiritual, and it makes me like emotional even saying it. Like I just came back from I got back 2 nights ago, and we were playing a big music festival out in North Carolina. And I looked out into the crowd, and there's probably, I don't know, a couple thousand people out there. And everyone had come. They were in this tent. They were dancing to our music. They were listening with open hearts. And I had that moment where I was like, I am a part of the thing that moves me the most. Right now, I am causing, like, people are together. They're singing along. They're trying to reach out, right? They're having this moment where we're all together. You can look to your left, you can look to your right. The strangers aren't strangers anymore. Voices are louder, they're bigger as one. We're all connecting in, we're all connecting up. And it's like it's only goodness that happens
Oh my
then.
God. I can only imagine like the energy of that. If you just think about the energy of that collective, like the vibration of not only the singing, but that how everyone is feeling and the connectedness of it all. I'm like,
And I think that's like, they say that, be like it's a drug. Like there's like this comparison to doing live music as there being a drug. And I mean, it is, but it's not a drug in a bad way. Like for me, a it's a tangible example that like of the divine, of the other, like that we can reach it, right? And it's right there in front of you, and you're making it and you're doing it. I think that when you're younger and you don't have a sense of that as deeply, like you can get lost in trying to chase that
yeah, yeah.
versus just being so grateful for it and so aware of what's happening and
Hmm.
what you're a part of, and knowing that yes, it's going to end. The song's going to end, and the moments are going to end, and the lights are going to go off, and everybody's going to go home, you know and no, but it happened. It happened. So, and I helped make it. And I think to me, being a part of that is the part that I can't give up.
Yeah, yeah. Ev, talk about pride. Like, I cannot, there are no word, like, proud isn't even the right word because it almost sounds like, I don't know, condescending in a way or something. It's like
I
the,
think
the
pride
like,
is such a
no, 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 it not, does not condescending. It's, but like, I am in awe of you. Like, I
Yeah,
am
I feel the
truly,
same about you.
oh,
No, it's so genuine. I so feel
no,
that way.
I
But it's
know.
because we're both doing what we set out to do. And I
Yeah.
think I think that was part of it, Julia. Like even when like I didn't share my music with hardly anyone at that time. Like, and I shared it with you. And you saw me for who I was and what my purpose is. Am I the best singer in the world? No. Can
Yeah.
people out sing
You're,
me? Can people belt higher than me? Can people have better tone or execution? Yes, of course. But can anyone else sound like how I was meant to sound?
mm-mm.
No.
No,
And so
no.
and so then like owning that and not being in awe of other people who can do it.
Well, you know what I love about what you just said too, this like your unique voice. Like no one else has your voice in the whole world and no one else ever will. That is you.
No.
And it's the same thing. And I've actually mentioned this on the podcast because I used to compare, I'm like, oh, Esther Hicks and like all these people. I'm not as profound as them. I don't connect with guides. No one channels through me. Or maybe, I don't know. At that time I didn't. But all of a sudden I realized, oh, but I have my own experiences and I have my own way of speaking it, and someone's going to resonate with that who doesn't resonate with Esther Hicks. And just like, but recognizing that no one else interprets things or says things when I'm really genuine and authentically me, just like me. And it's the
I mean,
same
I
with
that's
you.
like Jules, that's like one of the favorite songs that I wrote is that's the chorus. You know, that they're like, go shine your light because there's plenty of room in the sky. And that's
Oh,
the chorus, you know, and it's true. If I talk specifically about that song, I'm in two bands. I'm in a band called Effie Zilch that I write all my material before. And then that band backs up a woman named Miko Marks who is achieving incredible success. And I help with that project and I'm in that band. And before even Miko kind of exploded in the way that she's now, I wrote this song because we're both female singers. We're totally different voices. We have totally different talents. And we're on the same record label. And it would be really easy for me to compare myself. And the truth is if I do compare myself, then I'm completely taking away from my own power, my own gift, my own what I bring to the table. And if she's comparing herself to me and I'm comparing herself to her, both of us are diminishing.
yeah.
But
Hmm.
instead, if we're like, whoa, I cannot believe you sound like that. There is no one that sounds like Miko. There is no one. And there's no one that sounds like me. And
Mm-mm.
my light and her light together make a beautiful song. So we sang this duet and we're on it together. And
For this song.
yeah, we're both on the song together.
Oh
And
my
I
God.
like so intentionally, like it was me telling myself that, like me saying, like, Evan, like if you're listening to that little voice of doubt, which is so powerful
Oh,
and it can
yeah.
sink so many people. And man, I succumb to it. I succumb
Oh
to it
yeah.
all the time,
Yeah, because
you
you're
know,
human, and because
because you're human.
that's the ego also.
And then, but if, you know, if you come to it, if you succumb to it in the moment of creation, then you never create. And for me, you know, my spirituality is that there's kind of two poles in life. There's the dark and there's the light. And the light creates and the dark tries to prevent it. And so if you align yourself in the light and if you keep yourself there and if you keep choosing that, then you're going to create and you're going to only create in the way that you can, which is through you.
Oh, I mean, I told we were on the phone this morning, and you said something. I don't even remember what you said, but I was like, oh my God, I'm one giant goosebump. Like they're all connected. It's same. Like every time you talk, Evan, I like just chicken skin goosebumps because it's like it's so resonates so deeply with me, and especially like for me now being in this work and speaking to so many women who are kind of at this crossroads of like, do I go and try to align my light and go for this thing that I really want, or am I going to succumb to all the fears, all the judgment, all the things that could happen, and stay in my quote unquote safety of this little, nest or whatever that I've built for my cocoon. And it's like a lot of people just stay there forever because it feels safer. This being in the two bands thing. Well, let's talk about a little bit. So you get pregnant, we're at Google.
Oh my
And
God.
yeah. We had been like, we had had
Oh,
some wild nights, and then you're just like,
I'm
oh my
pregnant.
God, oh my God, oh my God, I'm pregnant, I'm pregnant. What is happening? What is this, the end of an era? I'm like, yeah,
What's
probably
going to
this is.
happen to me?
Yeah, so you get pregnant with little Brycey, um and then you ended up leaving Google after you had her, and you're like, this isn't meant for me. But let's talk a little bit about what, moving to going to Menlo and teaching, and just kind of a little bit of the life after Google, post Google.
Yeah.
Um,
It's funny. I think I knew you were going to ask me that. And I remember so vividly the decision not to come back to Google. And I think I called you that morning.
mhm.
But I remember I had Brycey. I was on mat leave with the intention of going back. And I was starting to slowly check some emails. And I, gone to bed and I woke up the next morning and Bryce was still asleep in her little bassinet. And I looked at her and I was like, the safe path for my life is to stay at Google, is to have all of my children at Google. Like, I know what I'm getting there. I understand my job. I'm good at my job. I have a great salary and a really environment that is supportive of women and all of the things, all of the
All the
very
perks,
all the
massages,
perks.
all the stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
all the things that would make it the clear, safe, logical choice. And I remember looking down at Bryce's face and saying very deeply in my heart that I knew what I wanted to do and I wasn't doing that. And if I was going to leave my kids to go to work every day, then it'd have to be something that I was proud to do. And not to say that there are a ton of people that go to work every day so proud to work at Google. That is
Oh my
I'm not
god,
saying
yeah.
that
And
that is
you yeah, and I
and I
also
was
think we
proud of
evolved.
myself
Well, that's what I'm
too.
saying, you evolved. Like that served you for where you were in your early 20s.
All of that.
Yeah.
But that thing, that purpose
Yeah.
that we're
Yeah.
talking about, going to
Mhm.
that kernel of purpose and having a gift of actually knowing what you love, because I
Yeah.
do think that's a
Yeah.
gift.
Yes, 100%.
And I think it takes people a really long time to distill that.
Yeah.
And for me, it was always clear. So I was pushing it away because of self-doubt, because it wasn't the most lucrative, still not the most lucrative career. It's a struggle. It's a huge unknown. Um, but at the end of the day, I just looked at Bryce and I thought, if there's one thing that I want her to know about me, it's that I wasn't afraid to do what I want to do. And if I'm going to spend time away from my kids, I really want it to be something that's purpose driven and in alignment with me.
Yes.
Um, and so it wasn't this like immediate return to music. Oh my gosh, I'm on the road. I have a band. I'm a writer. Like, it wasn't this immediate thing. I
Well,
actually,
I also remember because we had many conversations. You're like, "Oh my god, the day is getting closer." The day I'm like, "You're gonna have to make a decision because people
here,
are want to know if you're coming back." And you're like, "I don't want to come back, but I don't know what I'm gonna do." And then it was like the day before, and you're like, I'm not, Julie. I cannot do this." Um, and then I remember Dave, our manager, was kind of like, "Well, what are you gonna do?" And you're like, "What did you say to him?" You're
not this.
yeah, because everyone was like assumed you just took another job or do like it wasn't even a question like, "Wait, you're not gonna come back. What do you mean? Where are you going? Like, are you going to
Yeah.
Microsoft? Like, what are you
I mean,
doing?"
I think I mean, I don't remember exactly what I said, but I think it was just like, I actually really don't know,
Yeah,
and I know that I think I have to do something totally different.
yeah,
Um, and then I was just as, not just a, I was blessed to spend even more time with Bryce, 3 more months. And then I had this feeling, I was like, well, I know I have to start somewhere if I'm going to be in the arts. I have to start somewhere. And so I called my high school that I went to that I loved. I had a really cool high school experience. And I was like, hey, um, you know, I I want to volunteer on working on one of your musicals. And I'm credentialed to do it. Like, I'm not a credentialed teacher, but I went to school for music and
yeah,
theater, and I think I can help.
yeah.
And so I volunteered on one play, and then that turned into like a small contract job, and then here I am 10 years later, and I've done 29 musicals, and I'm a teacher, of which I have to quit because I'm touring too much.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my god. Well, you've like scaled way back though, right?
Scaled way back this year and have such a supportive school and like teachers around me to kind of fill in when I'm gone. But the music stuff is going really well, and it's sort of unfair to the students. Maybe I'll be back at teaching
Yeah.
eventually, but it was such a gift to
Oh, so
teach.
was it like, let's talk about the feeling of like towards the end of working at Google versus the feeling of s- being in that musical environment? Like, how do you describe alignment? And Evan, by the way, is like, you're just poetic with your words. So I'm asking you questions so that we can all just hear your musical, just
My songwriting.
your songwriting. Like,
Um,
what is that feeling of being in alignment?
Tara Saha was, and I hope she's listening to this podcast. She was the very first show. Bryce was 6 months when I started volunteering at Menlo, and we were doing a musical. And Tara had this beautiful voice, and she got cast as the lead. And I don't think she expected to be the lead. I think she was so excited to do it, but there was just the natural fear of a young person kind of
Wait,
stepping out.
what play was this?
It was called Spam a Lot. It's a
Okay.
funny comedy.
Mhm.
And I remember working with her kind of all along. And I remember opening night and watching her take the stage and watching her. You have to step over this threshold when you take the stage where you can be nervous, you can be whatever, but the minute you go on, you're in it. No matter what, you're there, you're committed, you chose to be there. And so there's this giant sense of letting go and trusting yourself to do what you came to do, what you've practiced doing, what you put your time into, but you don't know how it's going. But there's just this
Mhm.
stretch. I can't really
Mhm.
explain it. You just take the stage, and whatever is going to happen is going to happen.
Yeah.
And I remember watching her do it, and she stepped on and she started to sing, and it was small at first. And through the course of the song, it got bigger and bigger and bigger. And by the end, this beautiful young girl found herself. And I knew that at that moment, that her life, that her sense of self, that her inner confidence, she would always have that moment.
Oh my
And so for me, it's interesting because I'm a performer too, right? And I didn't know I wanted to be a teacher. I didn't know what I was going to do. But I remember watching this girl unfurl like a butterfly, just totally unfurl. And she was standing there in this light and she was singing her heart out. And when she walked up the stage, I swear she was 2 inches taller.
oh my
And,
gosh.
and, and so for me, I was like, that is what I want to be a part of.
Mhm.
That's what I want to be a part of, whether it's myself in my own art or whether it's hundreds of teenagers, which now it has been, coming into their own, whether it's my own children, honestly, whether it's my friends,
Mhm.
like
Mhm.
that moment where you have to step on stage and become
Mhm.
what you're going to become. And, like, I don't know, I think that's it.
Yeah.
And so for me, that's my
Wow.
alignment. And um and I get there through performing arts, through music,
Yeah.
through theater, through teaching, through I that's the medium that I can get there.
So powerful. And then you can use that as a metaphor for so many things, that moment when your authenticity shines through and you become the person you're meant to become. Like I know that I know that feeling. Like I know that feeling. It's incredible to experience for yourself. It's all equally as incredible to witness.
Yeah.
Um Evan, how okay, so let's fast forward a little bit, and obviously we've remained friends throughout the last 15 years since Google, or whatever. How long has it been?
Oh, I don't know.
My gosh.
You look the same.
Yeah, like so you look better. 15 years later, and we maybe we don't see each other enough, but maybe a
Enough.
couple of times a year. But there were a few years where you, especially actually when I started doing like Dream Your Life and really talking about manifestation and finally like stepping into me, what I'm here to share, which I really like talk about alignment, is like when I talk about this, it's because I believe it in my core and I want other people to feel it and believe it for themselves to have those moments. But um I remember so distinctly also, maybe this is maybe like a year and a half ago, and you're like, Julia, you gotta help me with manifesting. Like we gotta manifest, like I'm ready. I am in place, like and maybe this was no, maybe this
No,
was
my
longer
birthday.
ago. Yeah, but okay, but maybe 2 year, right when you first started Effie Zilch, like right in
Coffee's
the
out.
beginning, early
Oh, yeah,
days.
yeah, 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 yeah. I remember
Maybe
now.
I was pregnant with Bowen, and
Bowen.
I came to, we were like sitting in Town and Country Mall, and you're like, I don't know what's happening, but what?
No, I think
Oh,
it's when I came to visit you when you had just had Bowen, and you gave
oh,
me the book
oh,
of
oh.
the dream with the balloon on it, the dream your life. No? The children's book.
Oh, that I gave you for Bryce.
No.
You I gave you a book by Mike Dooley. It was his
Oh,
first
you gave me that for
children
Bryce, but maybe our conversation, yeah, you gave me that for Bryce. You gave me for that for Bryce because
that
that's
so that was yeah, that was like
11 years ago.
11 years ago. Yeah, because Mike Dooley's like who really like
Started you.
started me. Anyway, he still refuses to get on this podcast. He's
Come
not
on,
here.
Mike Dooley.
Come
We're
on,
manifesting
Dooley.
you
I
now.
know. But no, but anyway, you're like, I'm living this Menlo Park life and
Ooh,
it's
hey, it's
great,
all,
but
yeah.
I need to manifest my dream. Like I am ready. I'm loving what I'm doing. The high school, I'm loving all this stuff, but oh my God, Julia, I'm like, I'm at the cusp of something. We're gonna make it happen. So before we talk about it, like I just really want to hear your interpretation and thoughts on manifestation. This idea that our thoughts and focus create our reality.
I think manifestation is like so fundamentally human. And and that we're all doing it all the time. And it's our it's like how we frame things, how we choose to think about things, how we choose to put them in perspectives. Like I can literally take the same situation and think about it from two diametrically opposing stances. And the outcome will be related to however I'm thinking about them.
Mhm.
Like, and so if I'm thinking about, I mean, here's my daily manifestation of it, right? Like I just came home from 3 weeks away of being on tour. It's really hard. I leave my kids, right? I leave my kids and I go get to do every night what my purpose is. And so it's beautifully fulfilling. And then I go home to my really yucky hotel room and I'm beautifully lonely for my family, right? So there's these two things that are happening. And if I choose the perspective of guilt, because I can feel guilt in either situation,
Mhm. Mhm.
and if I choose that perspective, then the whole thing is that.
Mhm.
You know, I've left my kids. My kids aren't well. I'm not, what am I doing? This is all so self-serving. I'm feeling so guilty. Da 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 da. What am I doing? Or, um, like, like I'm guilty because I'm not giving 100% to this because I have this huge life at home, and if I could just give 100% to my music, then my music would be better, and like I won't have the distraction. Like there's a million ways to put a spin on everything,
Mhm.
right? If I say to myself, Evan, like your whole life, this is what you wanted to do, and it happened later for you than you intended, and it happened later than for most people, but right now, you're doing what you set out to do. And this is a gift and a blessing, and you don't know how long this is going to last. And for your children, and because your children, go nail it. Go do
Yeah.
it. Go sing your heart
Yeah.
out. Go create those moments. Right. And then, and then that leads to the thinking of, oh my gosh, like when I looked at Bryce all those years ago and I said, go do something that you love to
Mhm.
do and make your kid proud, like that's the fulfillment of that thought process,
Mhm.
of that prophecy, of that intention. Right. And so you're, So, like, all of those thoughts, but I could have completely different thoughts about the
Yeah.
same thing,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And
It's all, yeah, it's all perspective too. It's all perspective.
yeah, and please, I am my own worst enemy a lot of the time, in my thought processes. And yet I do believe and I do know, and in the core of myself I do know that if I keep choosing to reframe it, to go deeper, to lend it positivity. If I think of you, Julia, like what you would say to me in these moments of doubt, if I think of the people that love me the most, that support me the most, what they would say, then I'm able to get to the reframing of it. And the minute that I do it, I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm so empowered.
You
I'm
want
so
to
empowered.
it so many thoughts on this, but I feel like I have to tell you the thing that my grandmother and great grandmother. So I had mentioned this, and I'm like, I'll tell you later today when we do the podcast recording. But I was just in Hawaii and saw this psychic, and she's like, I'd read all the reviews, and people were like, oh my god, she's insane. Like she will, like, my whatever past loved ones came through, and it was exactly that person. You don't tell her anything. I didn't tell her anything. So anyway, right away she said, your great grandmother is here. And I'm like, oh, weird. I, which great grandmother? And she said, your mother's mother. And she said, your grandmother is here too. And and I'm like, what are they here to share? And she was kind of like, and also Evan knew my grandmother.
Effie,
Yeah,
yeah,
my grandparents loved Evan so much. We had some dinners over there, and anyway, she knows how special these my grandmother and grandfather were to me. And so all of these experiences recently connecting with my grandparents have been just magical, and I've
I can't
felt
even
it.
imagine.
But my grandmother came through, so this was last week, and I didn't tell this medium anything. And she's like, oh, your grandmother is showing me and your great grandmother kind of, she's like, it's like they're showing me a movie of their life, and their life is in the kitchen and cooking and serving and taking care of your mother and kids, and she's like, I don't know why they're showing me this. I'm like, I had no idea where she was going with this. And she's like, okay, they're showing me, yeah, taking care, they're really this homemaker kind of life. And she's like, oh, your grandmother's saying, go do you.
Oh,
And oh my god, it's gonna make me cry.
no.
um but yeah, she was like, 'cause I was feeling that guilt last week
Yeah,
big time.
yeah,
And she's like, no, your grandmother is saying, like, your life is meant to, like, your soul wants to express itself. And she's like, it's not dark or negative, but she's saying she didn't do that. And she loved her life. Like, she took
yeah,
care of but she didn't have a chance to express herself. And I'm not going to tell my mom this, because it would, like, it's sad in a way. Like, it made me really sad, but it also, it felt so good. and it
yeah, to
and it
know.
felt, yeah, and it felt like it is something she would want me to know. And
Well,
all
it
this,
feels
yeah.
like like her legacy living through you and like becoming something through you. And Jules, like, I think it is something to like be so cognizant of is just like what the narrative of women are.
Yeah.
Like, we're still redefining like how it is to be mothers in a world that like isn't set up for it all for us.
Hmm.
And it's we're on the backs of these pioneering women that are doing these things, but like we're still pioneering.
Hmm.
We're still like we're raising these beautiful children. And Jules, like, no children love their mothers more than you, and they're okay when you're gone because of that.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
mine are okay when
Yeah.
I'm gone. They miss me. I miss them. It sucks, like it hurts to be away from your children, but at the same time, it's like at the same time, they need to see me
Oh, yeah.
doing this so that it's okay for them.
Yeah.
And like I'm raising them to be these people, but how do I do that if I'm not?
Yeah. 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 I
And how
mean, yeah, if you had stayed at Google and stayed on that path of just not living your purpose, not feeling alignment, but then, being home every night and, like having their meals, they'd see right through
they'd
that.
see right through that. And and like and Etsy, oh, I mean, Etsy was pioneering in her own way,
Yeah.
and in a way that was, you know,
Well, she was the very first class for women at Stanford, which is cool.
exactly,
Yeah.
like, that's so crazy,
Yeah.
and yet her options, her choices, her realities in that time, in that
Yeah.
society was a very different picture
Yeah.
of, like, maybe the own quiet desires of everyone's human heart,
Yeah.
you know?
Oh, yeah. We're just redefining roles, and we're like there's this huge awakening, and I'm seeing it so much now, and I'm like, is it because of the space that I'm in and the women who are drawn to me are like, no, I'm looking for my purpose, I'm ready to do something different, or is it just all of us? Is this collective awakening happening right now where we're all like, what does our soul want, and how can I start to express that and live a life that I really truly desire?
I mean, that's also, like, extraordinarily brave questioning, you know?
Yeah.
To, like to ask yourself what you want also means you have to face what you don't want
Yeah.
and do something about it.
Yeah.
So it's extraordinarily brave questioning. And so when you're in the space of making those kinds of decisions, you're going to be naturally drawn to people that also are making those kinds of decisions because you need that wind in your sails. You need that camaraderie. You need people that see it in the same way because
Yeah.
it requires so much bravery.
Oh my God. It's so true. And this is actually so like a perfect segue to what I wanted to ask you about, like the roles that you're playing right now and the people around you, and the fact that what you're doing now is really breaking the mold of, right? I mean,
Yeah.
like how
I mean,
how do you like talk about courage and bravery and all of that?
I have to go pick up my kids
Oh yeah.
from
Oh, oh my God.
for car line, but like this is the perfect way to end it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I like going right now. I've been gone 3 weeks, right? I'm also like a volunteer mom that works at the school and I'm really identify as being a mom. But then I pick up and I go and I get in the tour van for a long periods of time and I go and play rock and roll shows. So today is my first pickup and the car line makes me really nervous. I'm really nervous to go into that car line because um I know that the people that love me and that see me for me and know that I'm living a really authentic version of myself who know that I'm living in alignment. And then there is that voice in my head of like, what do the other moms think? I'm like always air drumming on my steering wheel, or like sometimes I forget the windows open and I'm just belting out songs. My kids are like, ah, mom, you know? And so I do like get that sense sometimes of these two worlds because I don't really know a lot of people in my life that aside from the musicians that I work with, but I don't know a lot of other moms that do what I do. And so sometimes I can be judgmental of myself in that way.
Yeah.
But the thing that makes me whole again in that thought process is that I have also really badass friends that are going
Yeah.
after what they wanna do, and they might feel lonely in their space, but they don't feel lonely in my support.
Mhm.
And I don't feel lonely in theirs. And
Mhm.
even though it's not the same thing, like, they're also going out and, like, bravely, like you, like, foraging ahead and creating this totally new path for themselves and, like, doing it all in,
Yeah.
like, whole heart.
Yeah.
And, um, and so I don't need other musicians to be like,
Yeah.
"Oh, I know what it's like to have a frog in your bathroom," because that happened. Um,
Yeah.
but I do need other women,
Yeah.
other mothers that are like, "Yeah, I see you. I know because I'm also really going for it."
Yeah.
And, um, and really going for it is really different across the board, right? Like, it's
Well,
not.
and I know that you have to leave, and I'm like, oh my god, how do I bottle up everything and then just like in 1 minute? But advice for the woman who's listening to this, being like, I have a dream. I'm too old. It is too big. It is just too out there. What's the advice, Evan, to that
so
person?
so A so A, it's never too late to do anything because who is telling us that story and why, right? That's not truth. You can do anything at any moment in your life. There is no dress rehearsal. It's right now. If you want to do something, you're going to do it. And if you have the gift of knowing what you want to do, which is a gift again, then do it. Because you're only denying yourself if you're not. Is it hard? Hell yeah. Is it scary? Oh yes. Is it Do you lie awake um with doubt? Yes. But are there moments of pure joy more often than not? Yes. Is there true excitement? How often as adults do we get to feel nervous? Nervousness is an amazing feeling. It means we care. So if you care and you care so much and you're nervous, then you've won. Like,
Yeah.
yes, like go. And so my advice is it's never too late. Knowing what you want to do is a gift. And finally, like, there are more people out there trying to do good things than there are not. And so just go find those people because then you're aligning yourself with that type of energy and you can kind of ignore the rest.
Oh, Evan. Okay, I know you have to go.
I can keep
I
talking to you in like
oh,
an hour if you want to keep
I
talking.
think we might need to because
Okay.
I
Let me
like
go get them and I'll text
okay.
you.
Okay.
Okay.
I love
I
you.
love you.
Okay,
Bye.
recording. I'm just recording because we're just gonna like jump right back in because we both just left and picked up our kids and got back home.
Success.
Success. And that's just like a perfect just example of
That's
just doing life and the all the worlds
And it's
and all the
all
worlds.
okay. I was 10 minutes late and the kids
Oh,
were okay. But that's the thing to
yeah.
remember. It's like this quest for perfectionism that's
I
like
know.
completely irrational.
I
Um,
know.
the
I
kids
know.
were happy that I was late because they got to play basketball with their friends. And so they were actually bummed to have to leave. And so you're just like,
See? See? Well, how was the pickup line?
the pickup line was awesome.
Good.
I got like a couple waves, and then I realized that all these people are really good people, and
I know.
the only person putting that energy out there is me.
I know. And you know what's so fun? And this is like something that I've really worked on too, especially with just social media in general, which has been such a challenge for me because, as you know, I am one to just, it's the Libra. I just like everyone happy and I want everyone to like me and I just don't want to ruffle feathers. And so, like, the idea of putting something out that's maybe a little polarizing or that's going to trigger someone has been really hard for me. But what I've realized is like, no one everyone's just thinking about themselves. Like everything is through the lens of themselves.
Of
No
course.
one cares about like what I'm saying. It's how it's affecting them. And then it's their own stuff. And no one's worried if I post something and like, oh, that's cringy or whatever. No, it's like, it's all, we're all living in our own worlds.
And if it is something like, if fundamentally someone is judging me for being a rock and roll mom or whatever category that they want to put me in, like that's kind of on them,
No, it is. It's
you
them.
know?
There's like where does the judgment come from? Right? Like why does that trigger you in some way or what? Like that is an opportunity to be like, okay, there's obviously this piece of me that's uncomfortable. Is what is it? And usually it's because there's something that they're not doing for themselves. That's what I've seen.
Or like me saying, "Oh, I'm uncomfortable because I feel kind of like an alien in the mom sea." And the truth is that I'm not. And the other truth is that if someone is going to make me an alien because of whatever, like I don't want to my I don't want to be friends anyway.
Yeah.
Like I don't
Mhm.
want to be friends anyway. That's not
Mhm.
an additive energy force to my life. So,
I know.
and for me to try to appease that person, which I can completely go down and get sucked into, is
And you're good at that too, because you know how to play the game. There is a like certain game too.
yeah,
If
of
of
course.
like how to appease people and how like you also have I mean that's an innate skill that you have and that I have too, which made us good at sales,
Sales.
but it's also allows you to be a chameleon in different settings.
Which is super fun, by the
Yeah.
way,
Yeah.
because I like to be in a lot of weird and different settings.
Yeah.
However, the part of you that you're gonna give up to please people, like there is a sense of loss in that of self because
Yeah.
and that's truly like that's the part that causes anxiety. That's the part that causes you to be judgmental of yourself. Sometimes that's the part that causes you to be judgmental of others when
Yeah.
they don't even deserve that.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you know?
Every time I judge, so I actually talked about this on the podcast too, because um I used to kind of judge people like on Instagram and stuff that would like flaunt like doing the bag opening of the new Prada or Chanel or the new like Range Rover. And I'm like, oh my God, come on.
So
But then
materialistic.
yeah, but then I realized, oh, there's actually a part of me that is really worried that people think that I'm materialistic. And there's something there. And then I started to like kind of do the work to uncover, oh my gosh, I'm like, that is that I do really like the luxury things. And I'm not going to be one to like, do the unwrapping on Instagram, but why am I judging someone who's doing that? And I just kind of started to let go of that too. I'm like, go do you cool. Like, you know, uh,
Like,
buy
I
that car and
I
show us
know,
all.
and maybe that person who's unwrapping their, Chanel purse, like, as a kid, always associated that with, like, success and
Yeah.
making it, and
Yeah.
so for them, it's just this, like, really happy interaction that they
Yeah.
actually get to have,
Yeah,
you know?
and what's wrong with that? Like, or is that hurting anyone? Is
No,
that no,
no.
no. Uh,
I have to do the work on that too a lot because, well, like, you know, it- you're as an artist, you're forced into having to put yourself out there on social media, right?
yeah,
And that's a really odd thing for someone that's an artist. Like I am terrible at social media and I get really like distracted by it and sucked into all these different thought processes because of it. But at the same time, I have to be on it in order to help
yeah,
like promote my music. And that's
yeah,
not a skill set. Like it's a skill set that if I'm a good songwriter, that has nothing to do with being good at Instagram, and yet you
yeah.
have to be good at it in order to be, like, recognized as a good songwriter. It's a very strange
Mhm, mhm.
thing. Um, And so that back to the comparison game,
Yeah.
when you're on social media, I think that is the biggest pitfall is that
Oh, 100%.
comparison game,
Yeah. Yeah.
where,
Yeah.
oh, that singer was at this festival and that singer gets all these likes on her social media and but my song is better, like like all of those things, or even like on my personal stuff, like that family went on that vacation. And
Mhm.
so like
Mhm.
that
Mhm.
comparison game and that pitfall of it. And I know everybody talks about that and I know how it's the toxicity of it. But if you flip it and you don't talk about the toxicity of it and you start to just be like, that's person's joy. Congratulations to that person. And you start lending it its own positivity, then
Or
all
how about just how incredible as a singer, songwriter, performer that you have a platform that allows you to speak to the world
access.
and connect to people like this is the first time that that people in your shoes could ever do this in such a scalable way. Thank you, Instagram. Like I'm coaching people all around the world right now. Like
Yeah,
in what world could I do
I've done
that if
that.
it weren't for social media? Yeah.
Exactly. So it's the like anything, right? Even this thing that can take us all
Yeah.
down.
Yeah.
But like
Yeah.
even in that, the framing of it in a different way allows you to almost engage with it with a different way. And
Mhm.
then
Mhm.
as you believe, your
Mhm.
thoughts then come back to you and they turn into different
Exactly.
things.
Exactly. Exactly. Okay, so I just posted a little story while we were taking our break and I had so many people I didn't even think like I just thought, I just wanted to share because I was in that energy of just like I love this conversation. We could talk forever. And so I just posted a story on social media and I was like, I just love this woman and you epitomize what it means to like manifest your dreams regardless of the age of your age. And I had all these people respond like, oh my God, when is this conversation coming out? Because I really do think, Evan, that they're going back to the awakening piece. People are starting to feel it, feel the tug,
Yeah.
feel the need. And I think I do have a lot of kind of followers that are in their 40s, mid 40s, even 50s, who are like, there's something more. Like, I want to express myself in a different way. I want to go for it. And let's just say for the people who actually do have that clarity, because to your point, clarity is a gift. And that's a whole nother piece
Thing.
to manifesting is like, yes, you need to manifest something. You need to know what it is, right? You
You
need
have
to
to know what
create
to
the
ask
vision,
for. Yeah.
know what to ask for. And then it's believing it's possible and moving towards it. For someone who does have a dream, and I'm just going to use a couple examples because these are real examples of people. Um, I have someone who really wants to write a book, um, is very scared to do it. I have someone who, actually, the person who just responded, also another writer who has dreams of turning her newsletter into something big and meaningful and impactful that where she can monetize it and create a livelihood and and all these different things. I actually talked to someone this morning. This was came almost like actually as a shock to me. She wants to start acting, and she's very much like an introvert and a teacher. And so acting thing came out of nowhere, but she's like, I've just been feeling called. Um,
You
but
should have
all
her
of
call
these
me.
women, I know, but can we talk a little bit more? We were
Yeah.
just starting to talk about it at the end, but this idea of it not being too late, and also, how did you actually do it? Like,
Okay.
let's be
So
honest and talk about it also from like the mindset that you need.
so I have like whenever someone else is talking and I want to interrupt because I'm so excited,
What is
I cross my fingers because like this is one idea and this is
Oh,
another idea. And so it's just like waiting under the table.
oh my God,
Okay.
I love it.
So the very first thing I want to say is there is the act of dreaming and dreaming and daydreaming and thinking and hoping and wishing and envisioning. Like all of those things are actually action items, right?
Oh,
They're
yeah, you're talking my language, the
And
dreaming
so
part.
yeah, but then there becomes the point where the dreaming becomes like it's not this fleeting thought. It becomes almost like a daily ritual, thinking about this thing, like wanting it, like it keeps coming up, right? So it's not this flash of light that crosses your eyes. It becomes a lot of flashes, and it becomes, you really start to marinate, and you start to see, and all of a sudden there has to become a part where the dreaming becomes doing. There has to be that transition, and I think that's the leap of faith that a lot of people walk to the edge of the cliff, and when you just that's where people don't jump, and they don't
Mhm.
they don't just start doing, right?
Mhm.
And I am one of those people. All right. Like I put away my guitar and I did some things with you and I did small things. But my big dream, Julia, was always to be a musician.
Yeah.
Right. And I really went away for that from a long time for other reasons, for reasons that served me, looking back. But I got to the edge of my cliff and I didn't jump. Right. Like for some reason, I wasn't ready. And um and there was finally a point, and it actually I sometimes the right people come across your path to help you take that jump. And one of my old, really close friends who we started off doing music together a long time ago when we were in each other's first bands with no pressure other than to say, "Hey, I don't know why you're not making music anymore. It was one of the things I liked doing best with you." Um, he kind of came across my path and he was a bit relentless about it. And he was the one that like took me to the cliff and was like, "Jump, jump, let's do this." And I could, only I could jump. Only I could jump.
Yeah.
Only me. That's only my action. But when you go from the dreaming to the doing and the doing starts actually happening, um, that is electricity. And for me, that happened about 7 years ago when my this friend Steve Wireman, he's the other half of Effie Zilch. He basically just said, "I'm booking studio time for you. I know you have the songs." And I said, "I don't have the songs, Steve. I don't have the songs." He's like, "It's on Wednesday. Show up with the songs." And I had two songs and I needed one more. And so, within those 3 days, I wrote another song. Now, are those three songs are they out on Spotify or on any of my albums or anything that I put out? Absolutely not. No. But they were the three songs that took you to the cliff and you jump off again. And once that happened, once that well was open and I stopped thinking about it and I actually started doing it, it was like this floodgate of songs that had been pent up in me that just started to drain out of me. And I also made space for it
Mhm.
in my life, in that
Mhm.
I made this really clear decision that, I mean, time is everybody's commodity in our lives, particularly as women, as parents, as moms. And my thing is that I spend when I have time to rest and recuperate, I would watch television to like just
Same.
just
Same.
veg,
I used
to,
to.
to
Yeah.
turn out.
Mhm.
And I said, if I were to add up in my week how many hours of television I was watching, and I turned that time where I was doing nothing, maybe I was self-soothing, maybe I was resting, maybe I was, but really nothing. If I took that time, if I took back that time and I turned it into the doing, then maybe I would have something. And oh my God, I had so
It's
much
crazy.
time.
It's the television thing. I stopped watching TV too because I added up all the hours. Like, even if it's just an hour a night or something, that's 365 hours a year. Like, and you compare that to how long it would take to write a book or all, you're like, "Oh my gosh, that
Those are the
hour,
hours.
those are the hours." You know, it's so funny. I'm on a chain with some text chain with some people. It's just this is just a perfect example, and everyone's like, "I don't have time to do that," and it's like I look back and there's like 100 messages. Everyone's saying, "I don't have time to do this thing," and I'm like, "It's actually the time that we have
You
all
took to
spent
write it.
to on this chain, reading and writing and responding and hearting and laughing about that we could have done so much stuff with that time."
I know. So I think then too, then it becomes like structuring your life in order to do it. So
Mhm.
for me, it was I completely reorganized my living room. My living room, it used to have white couches and it used to be what everybody else's living room looked like. And now I like pulled in my janky piano from the garage that had cobwebs of it. I took out my nice bar. I put out my guitars. I
I
made it
love
a
your living
place.
room.
I know, I do too. It's my favorite room
Yeah.
in the house now. And
Yeah.
it has all my weird ass things that I
Well,
like
it's so you. It's
I
so
collect
you. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so then I made it so anytime I passed by that room, like, I would pick up a guitar, and it could be
Oh
20
God,
minutes.
do you know why I love this so much? Because this is manifesting. This is like preparing. You prepare your space. You start acting as if it's the same. This is the classic example. If you want to call in love, start sleeping on one side of the bed. Make room in your closet. Like, make room for this person to come in. In your case, make room for this future musician who's going to want to grab the guitar and practice and jam and like make the space that this musician would want to live in.
Yeah, it's like that room is, anytime I go on tour or I go to like a new city, I try and find something that I can like put back into that room and like give back to it. Um, like another thing that's really weird is um there's a mirror in that room. And sometimes, and still now, I'll stand in the mirror with my guitar and I'll close my eyes and I'll imagine what it's like to play my music for people.
Mm.
And then I open my eyes and I play it for myself in the mirror. And like, it's a really weird thing. It's this active pretend, but it's also very real because I'm singing to me. I'm singing to me as if I'm the audience, and I'm also just imagining like sharing it and like being in that space. And I don't know, it's this I've been doing that since a little
That's
girl.
it. That's true, like, embodiment. You are embodying that future you, but also it is you. Like, oh my God. I mean, I think if we think about this just from, the aspiring writer, it's it's not just picking up the pen or typing out your newsletter thinking, and I know this person, oh, only one person's going to read it. How would it feel if you knew it was going out to a million people? What's the energy that you're putting into sharing your thoughts and your feelings and describing things, like when it's going out to a million people? How do you approach that differently? Like, that's a different energy.
It is and it isn't, because the okay, when I imagine this person that's writing the book, like, I've played for really small crowds,
Mhm.
and I've played for now much bigger crowds. And the sound of the audience when they're clapping for you and it's a bigger crowd
Mhm.
is a really powerful sound.
Mhm.
But the interaction with the one person who
Mhm.
said, "This song, when you were playing it, when you sang it, it meant so much to me. My
Mhm.
name is," and both are valid, like,
Mhm.
both wants are valid, but to the person that says, "What if only one person reads it?" Like, I know that's so cliche, but, like, if that person is moved, then that art is
Mhm.
it is fulfilled, and even if
Totally.
that person is you. And I think as an artist, Jules, I think that that is probably, like, the biggest thing to wrestle down is
Mm.
how the world receives your art once you share it.
Mhm. Mhm.
That's the part that it's so crazy. It's such a like, it's so vulnerable. It's this little child that you've created. It's, like, so personal, and you've poured all that you know how to do at that moment of time into it.
Yeah.
And then you're asking for people to respond, review, judge, like, react. Um, and in the end, in the end, the the process of making it is always the
Is
best
that's
part. And the result of making it is completely out of your control.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%.
And
I'm so glad you're saying this. It is so, so true. It is the I went to this Abraham Hicks, I saw them live, and that this was exactly it. It's the we came here to create, and it's the creation process that we need to focus on. And that focusing on the creation and the deliciousness of what unfolds is going to actually bring the manifestation too.
right, like, for your author friend, if your author friend or your aspiring author friend, if your author friend writes a book, her life will be forever changed
Yeah.
because she wrote a book.
Mhm.
How
Yeah.
that book is interpreted, received, blah, 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 we can manifest that. We can have great holy
Yeah.
expectations, thoughts,
Yeah.
all of those
Yeah.
things. But the thing that I know to be true over and over again, because I have, like, as a songwriter, all your songs are little books, and
Yeah.
you put your little babies out into the world, and some of them get 20 plays, and some of them get 80,000
Mhm.
plays, and you have
Mhm.
no idea why.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the one that, I have one song that is like my opus song, and it's like not the most popular by any means, and yet when I think about writing that song, like, that's the one to top for me. Like, I
Yeah.
don't like, that's the one that I that's the one that haunts me, like, "Oh, am I gonna be able to do better than that one?" And that's the one that's not
Wow.
even that well received. Do you know
Wow.
what I'm saying?
Totally. I think what I was trying to say also is there's there's a resistance that comes through when you're already thinking that no one's going to listen or no one's
Yes.
going to
Yes. What's
and
the point? Like,
what's
why would I do yeah.
the point? What's the like it takes away from the actual joy of the creation when
That's
you're
the
so
doubt.
focused on so
Yeah.
I mean for me when I started the podcast and I had two listeners, me and Alex. I didn't tell anyone and I just decided I'm going to start recording and I'm going to like just imagine that it's like I would literally imagine my voice like in the message going to people all over the world. And I'm like, if this, but to your point, if this reaches one person, it's so great. But I would like get onto this microphone and I didn't think it was just me and Alex on the other end. I'm like, I am sharing this, embodying that person who's speaking to everyone. Like, and I
Yeah.
really do credit that to the fact that somehow the algorithm picked it up and like, it wasn't me, my little voice and my little, and it's only going to be this little group of friends that's going to listen. It was like I was embodying like such a higher level.
Something yeah. Well, and I think that also has something to do with, like, alignment and, um, giving.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Mhm.
And because
Yeah.
when you frame it in that way, like, I so
Yes.
badly want to share this with as many people as
Yes.
I can
Yes.
because
Yes.
I so believe in this and I'm so moved by it and excited about it. And I want this one person to listen to this like love story that I made up in my head and I want it to be their love story. And
Yeah.
like
Yeah, or to your like, let's think about what you were saying in the beginning.
mm,
All of those people, that energy, all of you connected, how beautiful that
well,
moment
that
was.
is to
Yeah, like
create
how
that.
to
And to
create that.
create that from like from my guts. Like
Yes.
that's amazing. Like
Yeah.
and
So I think
so
you're right. I think it is both. It's thinking I mean, if it feels good, thinking big, it's just not like I just think we limit ourselves so much because we don't think things are possible, and that ends up being the thing that blocks us from getting.
well, I think yeah, I mean, listen, like being being a music artist is like probably one of the worst ways to make a
Well,
living.
do you really so this was another conversation I had and then I'm like, "Oh my gosh, the timing because I have to prepare for something that's happening at 4." But um the whole starving artist. This is the thing that continuously comes up and actually a lot of people will ask my quote unquote manifestation advice when there's all these ideas which I know that they're rooted in reality. Like the whole I know that breaking it like you can't expect to be the next Dolly Parton. Like that's not what I'm saying. I don't believe that there's going to be a million Dolly Partons, but do we have to subscribe to this starving artist story? Like,
No.
do you think there's because you've mentioned it a few times, not like you haven't said starving artist, but you've mentioned it's really challenging and it's not like having a career
Well,
at Google is probably going to be a lot more lucrative if you stayed with it or but how do we like
well, how do we fix that?
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's one of those moments in time, Jules, that like people are actually really trying to think about it to fix it. There is a broken system, kind of undeniably um about how art is valued, right?
Yeah.
We have made a lot of art free as a culture. Like when was the last time you paid for any music?
Oh. Oh, I bought the Jack Johnson album.
Yay, right?
Yeah.
So thanks. But once you make something free, as it's like everybody deserves to have it for free, then all of a sudden you're in a system of middlemen that
Yeah.
are controlling. But do I think it's a lost cause? No. Do I think that there's a way to fix it? Of course. Do I think that people are going to be inclined to do it eventually? Absolutely. Like, am I going to be a part of that solution? Probably. You know,
Yeah, you
like
are. Yeah, you
so,
are.
so yes, there's a system in place right now that doesn't favor the musician.
Well, and are you talking about writers? Are you talking about all kinds of
Let's just put a
artists?
blanket over and say there's a system that's like it is a little bit harder to make a living doing art. Do I think you can make a living? 100%. Do I think that you can become wildly successful beyond your dreams? Yes. You know, do I think that a lot of people reach a really happy medium with art where they're making it and they're making a living and maybe it looks different than what they thought, but maybe what they thought they didn't really want.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so, you know, I all of those things are all true, you know.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
So
it actually really goes back to this idea that it's not the money that we want, it's how we think the money is going to make us feel. And as an artist, how do you want to feel?
that's the thing. That's the thing. Like my most authentic joy is like, yes, I like luxury things too, Jules. Like, you know that, like a beautiful pair of shoes that I've been lusting over for 6 months when I finally have them and I bring them home and I unwrap them and I look at them and I'm like, I really wanted these and now I have them. And do I really want them? You know, like it's so fleeting, those things.
Mhm.
And the act of attaining it is the joy,
The fun
right?
part.
That's
Yeah.
the fun part.
Mhm.
So with art, like, yeah, listen, do I wish I had a tour bus instead of a tour van? Because we travel behind a tour bus, and I know that those beds are way nicer. But guess what? My little opening act is behind a massive enterprise, and we play to those huge audience every night. And maybe when I'm on that tour bus, I'll be a little more tired, a little more jaded, a little less excited about the show as I am right now. I don't know how I'll feel,
And
but I
also, yeah, and also this goes into like the whole journey piece and the contrast. If someone 7 years ago said, "All right, here's your tour bus. Here's your like, whatever, your opening for Coachella," you'd be like, "Oh, awesome. Okay, where's the joy in getting there? Where's the
Yeah,
joy of being in the van and stopping at these pit stops and like doing weird dance moves and like
doing push-ups at
I
every gas station
yeah,
to stay
like
strong, you know?
did I deserve all maybe, but like part of the fun
100%.
is getting there.
And then it all goes back to Julia. It all goes back to all of that goes back to the moment in my living room between the sound of my kids fighting in the other room and the tea kettle going off and Camilo doing a conference call in the room above and me finding the chorus.
Oh.
Like that moment is the most exhilarating of them all,
Oh.
you know? And so, starving artists, like there's this pairing of suffering with art. And I think we make it like this suffering and this painful relationship what you have with art. And it is true because to do art is painful because it hurts so much. You want to get it out so bad and you want to find the moment, you want to make this creation, and it's all lusty. Like it's all beautiful. It's all life. It's all living, and it's
Mm,
so intertwined, and no one, like, the joy of creating art, like, is what, like,
what we're
I
here
don't
for.
know, what
What
you're
we're
here
here
for,
what
what
we're
we're
here
all
for,
here for.
whether it's yeah, your art meaning anything, really.
Yes,
Yeah.
anything that we find beauty in.
Yeah. Oh, Evan. So what is next for you? What are you creating next? What is this next like do you plan this out, or are you're doing the dreaming, you're doing the executing, we're moving towards the vision? Do we have like the big vision?
I It's weird because on one hand,
Are you
um
looking at a vision board right now? I can't tell
no,
what you're looking at.
I'm looking at my window, and
Oh,
but I have, like, a really weird answer,
okay. Oh, I
that
love
I'm
weird
just
answers. Okay, let's do it.
so forever and ever, my vision was always to be in the wings and walk out on stage and play original music for people.
Mhm.
And it's weird because I am doing that, but I'm doing that as a band, as a member of a band. And my own music is starting to take off, which is fun. But all these accolades are for a band that I'm a part of, but I'm so proud of that band. And the visions that I had were me stepping out. When I visioned something, so those visions are manifesting, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, I think there's two really deep feelings that come up for me when you ask me for what's next. What's next is I would like to play some of my own songs to that many people.
Yeah.
And I also want to work on a multimedia project. And I
Ooh.
keep so, where we say those things that come across your brow, but I keep kind of coming up with this fact where I know a lot of really brilliant and talented people, and I would like to pool them to make either like a short series film or a movie, and then I would like to do the music.
Mm.
So, but I like,
You don't know how it's gonna happen,
I
and no,
don't know how it's gonna
you don't
happen.
want to, by the way.
Yeah, I
Don't
don't
limit
know, but
yourself. Yeah. But
I
you're
just
share it. Share it.
and I also want the majority of the people that I do this thing with to be women.
Yeah.
I really see it as a table of women, like women writers, women filmmakers, women editors, like a tribe, like a troupe of like female musicians coming together to make this thing. And it is, I've said it out loud a few
Yeah.
times. It feels kind of like very bold
Well,
proclaiming it on the podcast.
my whole theme for this week, because my podcast last week was about the importance of speaking what you want into existence by sharing it with people. We hold things so close to our chest because we're protecting ourselves or there's a
Yeah.
fear there. What you just did, you putting it out there, someone might listen to this and be like, "Ooh, I have someone that, but this is how connections, this is like what the universe wants. Like, put it out there so that I can do my job to send you the opportunities and the ideas and the
Yeah.
how."
Of how, and let it come in. You're one of the people to constantly remind me of that, Jules. And listening to you and following you, like your affirmations in the morning and the way that you approach even like parenting. Sometimes even if I'm in a parenting rut, like I'll look at you like walking down the runway with your kids on Barbie, like this morning, and I'm like, that's my best friend. And I haven't seen her in too long. Of course she's doing that. And today when I pick up Bryce, I'm gonna like make her catwalk with me when we go home.
Wait, can I tell you a really embarrassing, like, I'm still actually mortified by what happened. Just side note. So I took Riley to World of Barbie. I went with Eileen, my sister, and a group of girls. And so there's so many people there, and every little station had a line where you had to. So there was like a ball pit with a slide, and then the camper van. And to do the photos in any of these places, you waited in a line. So we do this like runway, and then I'm like, oh, there's no line, and I do my like walk down the catwalk, boom,
It was
boom,
a
boom.
whole cue.
Did you notice everyone on the other side? A line out the freaking door, and I just cut everyone and strutted down. No, but you know what? I was so mortified. I went up to the line. I'm like, oh my God, I am so sorry. I went in the exit way. I had no idea. And they're like, girl, you were living your best life.
I
Like,
mean, see, that's the thing. Like, there's some people that were pissed and some people that loved it, and we just go focus on those.
yeah, exactly.
We can't control
Oh
the
my
other
God.
one.
Oh my God. I love you so much. Evan,
I
can
love you.
you share how, like, we're gonna put your handles and everything, but
Yeah.
how do people go download your music? Like, actually pay for your music and support you as an artist? Because that was
Oh,
like a big theme from today.
thank you. Well, you can go to EffieZilch.com, and you can buy
Okay.
a record and you can buy a CD. We press CDs, we press vinyls, so you can actually purchase hard copies. And I think, those dollars go directly into the making of more. So
Okay. We're gonna put the link there, and I'm putting out positive energy already, but I feel it like your words, everything that we talked about today, I know that it's going to serve people. I just know it. I feel it. And yeah, Evan, I'm like, again, pride, it's not the right
aw.
word. It's just like, I'm so happy your soul came on to incarnate at the same time as mine. There we go.
Me too.
That's what I
Me
wanted
too.
to say.
You're a true gift,
'Cause this
Julia.
this is
Thank
so,
you for everything
I
you
feel
do.
so blessed to have you in my life. I really do.
I adore you.
I love you. Mwah.
Do you know what? For all those listening out there, the way that I have described Julia to everyone that I've ever met, including my parents, when I came home, I'm like, I met somebody. The way to describe you, Julia, is that you eat sunshine and then you beam it
Oh.
back out. That's what sustains you.
Oh,
So we love you, and my
oh.
family adores you, and I love
Oh
you, and
my God, I
even
love your
more.
family too. Okay, I'm gonna go start eating some sunshine right
Bye. Go
now.
swallow it up,
Okay,
just so you can
love
give it
you.
back.